Maya Rodriguez walked through the gates of Riverside Military Academy with her chin held high, despite the knot forming in her stomach. At 17, she had learned to mask her nervousness behind a confident expression, a skill her father had taught her without even realizing it. The morning sun cast long shadows across the pristine campus grounds, where perfectly manicured lawns met imposing brick buildings that had housed future military leaders for over a century. Her father, Senior Chief Petty Officer Carlos Rodriguez, had been deployed for the past 8 months. The Navy SEAL rarely spoke about his missions, but Maya had grown up understanding that his work meant protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. She carried that same sense of duty, though she expressed it differently than the man who had raised her to be strong, independent, and unafraid of challenges. The decision to transfer to Riverside hadn't been easy. After her mother's death 3 years ago, Maya had bounced between her grandmother's house and various military bases, depending on her father's assignments. This academy represented stability, a chance to finish her senior year somewhere that understood military families, even if it meant starting over yet again. As she approached the main administrative building, Maya noticed groups of students already forming their morning social clusters. The boys wore crisp military-style uniforms with various insignia indicating their class rankings and achievements. The girls dressed in similar fashion, though their uniforms seemed somehow more tailored, more refined. Everyone looked like they belonged here, like they had been preparing for this environment their entire lives. Maya's own uniform felt foreign against her skin. She had spent most of her teenage years in regular public schools, where her father's military background made her something of an outsider. Here, she hoped things might be different. Nearly everyone had parents in the military. Nearly everyone understood the sacrifices that came with serving your country. "You must be the new student," came a voice from behind her. Maya turned to see a tall, blonde girl approaching with 2 companions flanking her like bodyguards. The girl's uniform bore several leadership pins, and her hair was styled in a perfect bun that probably took 30 minutes to achieve each morning. "I'm Brianna Caldwell," the girl said, extending her hand with practiced politeness. "My father is Colonel Caldwell, the Academy's commandant. Welcome to Riverside." "Maya Rodriguez," she replied, accepting the handshake. Brianna's grip was firm, perhaps deliberately so. "Rodriguez," Brianna repeated, as if testing the name. "That's Spanish, right? How interesting. We don't get many diverse students here." The comment stung, though Maya kept her expression neutral. She had dealt with subtle prejudice before, but something about Brianna's tone suggested this might be more direct than what she was used to. "My father is Senior Chief Rodriguez," Maya said simply. "Navy SEALs." One of Brianna's companions, a redhead with sharp green eyes, laughed softly. "SEALs," she said. "How dramatic. I'm Madison Pierce. My father commands the Pacific Fleet. Real naval leadership." Maya felt her jaw tighten. The dismissive tone toward her father's service was something she wouldn't tolerate, but she also recognized she was outnumbered and on her first day. "Choose your battles," her father always said. "Some fights aren't worth having." "I should probably get to the administration office," Maya said, stepping toward the building. "Of course," Brianna said smoothly. "Though you might want to manage your expectations about fitting in here. Riverside has certain standards: academic excellence, social refinement, family legacy. Not everyone is cut out for our environment." The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Maya nodded politely and continued toward the building, feeling their eyes on her back as she walked away. She had encountered mean girls before, but these 3 seemed to operate on a different level, more sophisticated in their cruelty, more confident in their power. Inside the administration office, Maya met with Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the student affairs coordinator. Dr. Mitchell was a kind woman in her 50s who had clearly spent her career helping military children navigate the challenges of constant relocation and family separation. "Your transcripts are impressive, Dr. Mitchell said, reviewing Maya's file. "Honor roll consistently, varsity track and field, volunteer work with veterans' families. You should do well here academically." "Thank you," Maya replied. "I'm looking forward to the challenge." Dr. Mitchell leaned forward slightly. "I should mention that Riverside has a unique social environment. Many of our students come from military families with significant rank and influence. Sometimes that creates hierarchies among the students that mirror their parents' positions. Maya understood the warning. I can handle myself, she said. I'm sure you can, Dr. Mitchell smiled. Your father spoke very highly of your resilience when he called to finalize your enrollment. He mentioned you've had to adapt to many different environments. The mention of her father brought both comfort and sadness. Carlos Rodriguez had called from wherever he was stationed, probably using a satellite phone between missions, just to make sure his daughter's transition would be smooth. He worried about her constantly, though he tried to hide it behind his stoic, sealed demeanor. He taught me to be strong, Maya said simply. Dr. Mitchell handed her a class schedule and campus map. Your first class is Advanced Literature with Mrs. Hampton. She's excellent, though demanding. After that, you have Chemistry, World History, and Calculus. Lunch is at noon, and your afternoon includes Physical Education and Leadership Studies. Maya studied the schedule. The academic load looked challenging, but manageable. Physical education would be a welcome break from sitting in classrooms all day. She had maintained her fitness routine religiously, partly because it made her feel connected to her father's world. One more thing, Dr. Mitchell added. We have a mentorship program where senior students help newcomers adjust. Brianna Caldwell has volunteered to be your mentor. Maya's heart sank, though she kept her expression neutral. That's very kind of her. Brianna is one of our most accomplished students, Dr. Mitchell continued. Student body president, captain of the debate team, headed for West Point next year. Her father speaks very highly of her leadership abilities. Walking to her first class, Maya reflected on the morning's encounters. Brianna's offer to mentor her was clearly strategic. Keep your enemies close, monitor their activities, maintain control over their integration into the social structure. Maya had seen similar tactics in the various schools she had attended, but never executed with such calculating precision. Advanced Literature turned out to be a small class of about 15 students, all of whom seemed to know each other well. Mrs. Hampton was a stern woman in her 60s who immediately launched into a discussion of character motivation in classical tragedy. Maya found herself drawn into the analysis, appreciating the teacher's no-nonsense approach to examining complex themes. Miss Rodriguez, Mrs. Hampton said toward the end of class, since you're new, would you care to share your thoughts on Antigone's defiance of King Creon? Maya straightened in her seat, aware that every other student was watching her response. Antigone chose to honor her family's values over the law, she said. Sometimes doing what's right means challenging authority, even when it costs you everything. Mrs. Hampton nodded approvingly. Interesting perspective. And do you think her defiance was justified? Yes, Maya said firmly. Some principles are worth fighting for, regardless of the consequences. After class, several students approached her with genuine friendliness, asking about her previous schools and her father's service. Not everyone at Riverside was aligned with Brianna's social hierarchy, Maya realized. There were students who valued character over connections, merit over family influence. Chemistry proved more challenging, not because of the subject matter but because Brianna sat directly behind her and spent the entire class making subtle comments designed to undermine Maya's confidence. Interesting technique. She would whisper when Maya organized her lab materials differently than expected. That's not how we usually do things here. During lunch, Maya found herself sitting with a group of students who seemed genuinely welcoming. There was Jennifer Wu, whose mother served as a Navy intelligence officer, Marcus Thompson, whose father was a Marine Corps sergeant, and David Kim, whose parents were both Army doctors stationed overseas. Don't let Brianna get to you, Jennifer said quietly as they ate. She thinks her father's position makes her untouchable. The colonel does have significant influence, Marcus added. But that doesn't give her the right to treat people like garbage. Maya appreciated their support, though she wondered how much they would risk to defend her if things escalated. Students with powerful parents could afford to take stands. Students whose fathers were deployed in dangerous locations had to be more careful about making enemies. Physical education was held in a state-of-the-art gymnasium complex that included an Olympic-sized pool, weight rooms, and multiple courts for various sports. Coach Reynolds, a former Marine drill sergeant, divided the class into teams for a fitness assessment that would determine their capabilities and create balanced groups for the semester. Maya had always excelled at physical challenges. Years of running with her father during his home visits, combined with her own dedication to staying in shape, had given her strength and endurance that surpassed most of her peers. She completed the mile run in just over 6 minutes, performed more pull-ups than anyone else in the class, and dominated the obstacle course that Coach Reynolds had constructed. Outstanding performance, Rodriguez, Coach Reynolds said as the class gathered for final instructions. You've clearly been training seriously. Brianna, who had struggled with several of the physical challenges, looked less pleased. Some of us focus on intellectual development rather than just physical prowess, she said loud enough for others to hear. Physical fitness is part of military readiness, Maya replied evenly. My father taught me that a strong body supports a strong mind. How convenient that your father taught you something, Brianna shot back, her facade of politeness finally cracking. Mine teaches me about real leadership, not just following orders. The comment hit its intended target. Maya felt her temper flare, but she forced herself to remain calm. Getting into an argument on her first day would only prove Brianna's point about her not belonging here. Coach Reynolds stepped between them. That's enough. Save the competition for the track, ladies. The final class of the day, Leadership Studies, was taught by Major Williams, a decorated Army officer who focused on practical applications of military leadership principles. The class included case studies of historical battles, analysis of command decisions, and discussions of ethical dilemmas faced by military leaders. Leadership, Major Williams began, is not about rank or authority. It's about inspiring others to accomplish missions that matter. Real leaders earn respect through their actions, not their titles. Maya found herself engaged by the subject matter, particularly when the discussion turned to unconventional leadership, situations where junior personnel had to step up when senior leaders were unavailable or incapacitated. Can anyone give me an example of leadership from below? Major Williams asked. Maya raised her hand. During Operation Red Wings, when the SEAL team was compromised, Petty Officer Marcus Luttrell had to make survival decisions without clear command structure. He had to lead himself first before he could help anyone else. The class fell silent. Maya realized she had referenced one of the most famous and tragic SEAL operations in recent history, one that had resulted in the deaths of 3 team members. Major Williams nodded slowly. That's a profound example, Miss Rodriguez. Leadership sometimes means making impossible choices with incomplete information. How do you think Petty Officer Luttrell found the strength to continue? Training, Maya said. And the knowledge that giving up would dishonor the sacrifice of his teammates. Sometimes leadership means carrying the mission forward even when you're alone. After class, Major Williams approached her privately. That was an insightful analysis, he said. Your father is fortunate to have raised someone who understands the weight of service. Walking back to the dormitory, Maya reflected on her first day. She had made some friends, demonstrated her academic and physical capabilities, and held her own against Brianna's subtle attacks. But she also sensed that this was only the beginning. Brianna wasn't the type to accept challenges to her social dominance quietly. That evening, Maya called her grandmother from the dormitory's common room. Maria Rodriguez was a small but fierce woman who had raised 4 children while her husband served in Vietnam, and later helped raise Maya after her mother's death. Mija, her grandmother said warmly. How was your first day at the fancy school? Complicated, Maya admitted. There's a girl here who seems determined to make things difficult for me. Ah, her grandmother said knowingly. The type who thinks her papa's rank makes her special? Exactly. Listen to me, Maya. Your father fights real enemies in real places for real reasons. You don't need to fight spoiled children who have never faced genuine challenges. But if they push you, if they make it impossible to avoid, then you show them what the daughter of Carlos Rodriguez is made of. Maya smiled despite her anxiety. Her grandmother had a way of putting things in perspective that made even the most complicated situations seem manageable. I miss Papa, Maya said quietly. He misses you too, Mija. But he is proud of you. He calls me every week, asking how you are, worrying about whether you are happy and safe. He would be here if he could. After the call, Maya sat in her dormitory room, unpacking the few personal belongings she had brought with her. Among them was a photograph of her father in his dress uniform, taken after he had received the Silver Star for actions he never discussed. Next to it was a picture of her mother, taken during happier times when their family was whole. She also unpacked a small journal her father had given her before his current deployment. "Write down your thoughts," he had said. "Sometimes putting things on paper helps you understand what you're really dealing with." That night, Maya wrote her first entry. Day 1 at Riverside. Made some friends, but also made an enemy. Brianna Caldwell thinks she owns this place because her father is the commandant. She doesn't know that I've been dealing with bullies my whole life, and I've learned that the only way to stop them is to stand up to them. The question is when and how. Papa always says to pick your battles carefully, but to never back down from a fight that matters. I think this one might matter. Maya's second week at Riverside Military Academy began with what seemed like a routine morning inspection, but she quickly learned that nothing at this school was ever truly routine. Colonel Caldwell himself appeared in the dormitory hallway, accompanied by 2 senior instructors and his daughter Brianna, who wore a satisfied smirk that immediately put Maya on alert. "Ladies," the colonel announced to the assembled students, "we have reports of contraband in the dormitories. This is a random inspection to ensure compliance with academy regulations." Maya watched as inspectors moved methodically through each room, checking for violations of the strict rules governing personal possessions. Students were allowed very few personal items, and everything had to be approved and registered with the administration. The inspection seemed thorough but fair until the team reached Maya's room. "What do we have here?" Inspector Walsh asked, pulling a small plastic bag from Maya's desk drawer. Inside the bag were what appeared to be pills, white tablets that could easily be mistaken for illegal substances. Maya stared at the bag in shock. "Those aren't mine," she said immediately. "I've never seen them before." "That's what they all say," Brianna commented from the hallway, her voice carrying just the right note of disappointed concern. "It's such a shame when new students think they can get away with breaking rules." Colonel Caldwell stepped into the room, his expression stern. "Miss Rodriguez, these pills were found in your personal space. Do you have an explanation?" "Sir, someone planted those," Maya said, keeping her voice respectful but firm. "I don't use drugs, and I would never bring contraband onto academy grounds." "A serious accusation," the colonel replied. "Are you suggesting that another student would frame you?" Maya glanced at Brianna, who maintained her expression of innocent concern. Making a direct accusation without proof would only make things worse, but staying silent felt like accepting guilt. "I'm saying those pills don't belong to me," Maya said carefully. "I request that they be tested to determine what they actually are." Inspector Walsh examined the tablets more closely. "They appear to be aspirin," he said. "Common over-the-counter pain medication." Colonel Caldwell nodded. "Still a violation. All medications must be registered with the nurse's office, even aspirin. Miss Rodriguez, you'll receive a formal reprimand and forfeit weekend privileges for 2 weeks." "But, sir," Maya began. "The matter is closed," the colonel said firmly. "Consider this a lesson in following procedures, regardless of how minor they might seem." After the inspection team left, Maya sat on her bed, staring at the formal reprimand document she had been required to sign. The punishment was relatively minor, but the precedent was dangerous. Someone had deliberately planted evidence in her room, and she had a very good idea who was responsible. Jennifer Wu appeared in her doorway. "That was completely unfair," she said quietly. "Everyone knows you wouldn't bring drugs to school." "It wasn't drugs," Maya replied. "Just aspirin." "But that's not the point." "The point is that someone set you up," Jennifer said, glancing around to make sure they weren't overheard. "And we all know who benefits from making you look bad." Maya appreciated her friend's support, but she also recognized the position Jennifer was in. As the daughter of a Navy intelligence officer, Jennifer couldn't afford to be seen as challenging the commandant's authority too directly. In advanced literature that morning, Mrs. Hampton announced a major project that would count for 30% of their semester grade. Students would work in pairs to analyze and present a classical work, demonstrating both literary understanding and public speaking skills. "I'll be assigning partners based on complementary strengths," Mrs. Hampton explained. "Miss Caldwell and Miss Rodriguez, you'll be working together on Shakespeare's Othello." Maya felt her stomach drop. Being forced to work closely with Brianna was clearly not a coincidence. Either Mrs. Hampton was genuinely trying to bridge social divides, or she had been influenced by the commandant's daughter to create this partnership. Brianna approached after class with her typical false friendliness. "How exciting that we'll be working together," she said. "Though I should mention that I have very high standards for academic work. I hope you can keep up." "I'm sure we'll do fine," Maya replied evenly. "Of course, given this morning's incident. I have to wonder about your judgment. Drug possession, even if it was just aspirin, suggests a certain carelessness with rules and procedures." Maya met Brianna's gaze directly. "I'm very careful with rules and procedures. Sometimes the problem isn't following them. It's knowing who's trying to manipulate them." For just a moment, Brianna's mask slipped, and Maya saw something cold and calculating in her eyes. "I'm not sure what you're implying," Brianna said, "but I'd be careful about making accusations you can't prove." During chemistry, Maya found herself paired with Marcus Thompson for a lab experiment involving chemical reactions and precise measurements. Marcus was one of the few students who seemed genuinely unimpressed by social hierarchies, perhaps because his father was a Marine sergeant rather than a high-ranking officer. "You handled that inspection really well," Marcus said quietly as they worked. "Most people would have broken down or gotten angry. My father taught me to stay calm under pressure," Maya replied, carefully measuring chemicals into a beaker. "SEALs are known for that," Marcus nodded, "staying cool when things get hot." As they worked, Maya noticed that their experiment was producing unexpected results. The chemical reaction was supposed to create a mild color change, but their mixture was bubbling more vigorously than expected. "Something's wrong," Maya said, quickly moving the beaker away from other materials on their lab table. Marcus checked their measurements. "Everything looks right according to the instructions." Maya examined the chemicals more closely and realized that one of the reagents had been tampered with. Someone had altered the concentration, making the reaction potentially dangerous. "Get Dr. Foster," Maya said urgently, continuing to monitor the increasingly volatile mixture. Dr. Foster rushed over and immediately recognized the problem. "Everyone step back," she commanded, quickly neutralizing the reaction with a specialized solution. This could have caused serious burns. As the classroom settled down, Dr. Foster examined the reagent bottle. "Someone has definitely altered this chemical," she announced. "This is extremely dangerous and completely unacceptable." Maya glanced around the classroom and saw Brianna watching the situation with what appeared to be disappointment rather than concern. The setup was becoming clearer. First the planted pills, now sabotaged lab materials. Someone was escalating their campaign to make Maya look incompetent or dangerous. That afternoon in leadership studies, Major Williams introduced a practical exercise called Command Under Pressure. Students would face simulated crisis situations and demonstrate their ability to make quick, effective decisions while managing limited resources and conflicting priorities. "Leadership isn't about having perfect information," Major Williams explained. "It's about making the best decisions possible with what you know, then adapting as circumstances change." Maya found herself assigned to lead a team through a scenario involving a natural disaster response. Her team included Jennifer, Marcus, David Kim, and, unfortunately, Brianna. The scenario required coordinating evacuation efforts, allocating medical resources, and maintaining communication with multiple agencies. "I think we should establish a clear chain of command," Brianna suggested immediately. "Given my experience with leadership positions and my father's background, I should coordinate our response." "The assignment specifies that Maya is the designated team leader," Jennifer pointed out. "Well, yes, but experience matters in crisis situations," Brianna replied smoothly. Maya recognized the challenge, but also saw an opportunity. "Everyone's input is valuable," she said diplomatically. "Brianna, you handle communications with higher command levels. Jennifer, coordinate medical resources. Marcus and David, work on evacuation logistics. I'll monitor overall progress and adjust assignments as needed." The strategy worked well. By giving Brianna a significant role while maintaining overall control, Maya avoided direct confrontation while demonstrating inclusive leadership. Their team completed the exercise successfully, earning praise from Major Williams. "Excellent work," the Major commented. "Miss Rodriguez showed strong leadership by utilizing everyone's strengths while maintaining clear decision-making authority." After class, Brianna cornered Maya in the hallway. Clever, she said. But don't think you can manipulate me as easily as you manipulated that exercise. I wasn't manipulating anyone, Maya replied. I was leading a team, which is what the assignment required. You don't belong here, Brianna said, her voice low and threatening. This academy is for students with real military heritage, not children of enlisted personnel who think they're special because their fathers play soldier in foreign countries. Maya felt her temper flare at the insult to her father's service, but she forced herself to remain calm. My father doesn't play soldier, she said quietly. He protects people like you who have the luxury of playing games instead of facing real dangers. Is that a threat? Brianna asked. It's an observation, Maya replied. You might want to consider whether your energy would be better spent on actual leadership instead of trying to tear down someone who's never done anything to you. That evening, Maya was studying in the library when she received an unexpected visitor. Dr. Mitchell, the student affairs coordinator, sat down across from her with a concerned expression. Maya, Dr. Mitchell said gently. I wanted to check on how you're adjusting. I've heard about some incidents. The inspection this morning, the chemistry lab situation. Maya closed her textbook. I'm handling things fine, Dr. Mitchell. Thank you for asking. I'm sure you are, Dr. Mitchell replied. But I want you to know that my door is always open if you need someone to talk to. Sometimes military children face unique pressures, especially when they're trying to establish themselves in new environments. I appreciate that, Maya said. Can I ask you something? Of course. If a student was being targeted by another student, not physically, but through sabotage or false accusations, what would be the proper way to handle it? Dr. Mitchell leaned forward. Are you saying you're being targeted? Maya chose her words carefully. I'm asking hypothetically about academy procedures for addressing such situations. Hypothetically, Dr. Mitchell said, any student experiencing harassment or sabotage should report it immediately to the administration. We take such matters very seriously, regardless of who's involved. Even if the accused student has a parent in a position of authority? Dr. Mitchell's expression became more serious. Maya, if you're experiencing problems with another student, you need to tell me directly. Hypothetical questions don't help anyone. Maya considered her options. Making formal accusations against the commandant's daughter without concrete proof could backfire badly. But continuing to endure escalating harassment wasn't sustainable either. I'm still gathering information, Maya said finally. But I'll definitely come to you if I need help. After Dr. Mitchell left, Maya returned to her studying, but her concentration was broken. She was caught in a difficult situation. Brianna clearly intended to continue her campaign of harassment, but proving it would be challenging. The planted pills and tampered chemicals could easily be dismissed as coincidences or mistakes. Maya's phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Check your email. Urgent. Opening her laptop, Maya found a message from an anonymous account with a video attachment. The video appeared to be security footage from the dormitory hallway, showing Brianna entering Maya's room the night before the inspection, staying for several minutes, then leaving. The message read, "Thought you should see this. Some of us are tired of watching bullies get away with things. Keep fighting." Maya stared at the screen, her heart racing. This was exactly the evidence she needed to prove Brianna had planted the pills, but the source was anonymous, and the method of obtaining it was questionable. Using the video would require explaining how she had received it, potentially getting someone else in trouble. She forwarded the video to a secure email account she had created for important documents, then deleted the original message. Having proof was valuable, but she needed to be strategic about how and when to use it. The next morning brought another challenge. Coach Reynolds announced that the physical education class would participate in a week-long survival training exercise in the woods surrounding the academy. Students would work in teams of 4 with minimal supplies to complete various challenges testing their outdoor skills and teamwork abilities. This exercise will count significantly toward your semester grade, Coach Reynolds explained. You'll be evaluated on resourcefulness, leadership, cooperation, and ability to handle stress. Maya found herself assigned to a team with 3 other students she didn't know well. Ashley Parker, whose father was a Coast Guard captain, Stephen Clark, whose parents were both Air Force pilots, and, unfortunately, Madison Pierce, Brianna's red-headed lieutenant. Madison made her position clear immediately. I hope you understand that this exercise is serious business, she told Maya. We can't afford to carry dead weight just because someone thinks their father's job makes them special. I'm not expecting special treatment, Maya replied calmly. I'm here to contribute whatever skills I have. Ashley and Stephen seemed more interested in actually completing the exercise successfully than in playing social games. During their planning session, they divided responsibilities based on actual abilities rather than social hierarchies. Maya's clearly the most physically prepared, Ashley observed. She should handle navigation and any climbing or running challenges. I can work on shelter construction, Stephen offered. My parents took me camping a lot when I was younger. Madison reluctantly agreed to handle food procurement and preparation, while Ashley took responsibility for first aid and emergency protocols. The survival exercise would begin the following Monday and last for 5 days. Teams would be dropped at different locations in the forest, given basic supplies, and required to reach various checkpoints while completing challenges along the way. Maya spent the weekend preparing by reviewing outdoor survival manuals and practicing knot-tying techniques her father had taught her during their camping trips. She also researched edible plants native to the region and memorized basic first aid procedures. Sunday evening, she received another anonymous message, this time warning her to be careful during the survival exercise. Watch your back in the woods, the message read. Some people play for keeps. Maya forwarded this message to her secure email as well, then spent time thinking about what it meant. Brianna and her followers seemed determined to escalate their harassment, and the wilderness setting would provide opportunities for accidents that would be difficult to investigate or prove. The survival exercise began at dawn on Monday morning, with 4 teams being transported to different starting points in the rugged forest surrounding Riverside Military Academy. Maya's team, herself, Ashley Parker, Stephen Clark, and Madison Pierce, was dropped near the base of a steep hill covered in dense pine trees and rocky outcroppings. Coach Reynolds reviewed their supplies one final time. A basic tent, sleeping bags, water purification tablets, a limited amount of food, a first aid kit, compass, map, and rope. Each team also received a GPS emergency beacon to use only in life-threatening situations. Remember, Coach Reynolds said, you have 5 days to reach the extraction point 12 miles northeast of here. Along the way, you must complete 4 checkpoint challenges and demonstrate your ability to work together under stress. You'll be monitored from a distance, but you're essentially on your own. As the transport vehicles disappeared down the dirt road, Maya's team found themselves alone in the wilderness. The morning air was crisp, and thick fog hung between the trees, limiting visibility to about 50 feet in any direction. First things first, Ashley said, pulling out the map. We need to identify our exact location and plan our route to the first checkpoint. Maya studied the topographic map, noting the elevation changes and potential obstacles. If we head northeast, we'll hit the river valley by this afternoon. The first checkpoint should be near the old logging bridge. Assuming we can find it in this fog, Stephen added, looking around nervously at the mist-shrouded forest. Madison had been unusually quiet since their arrival, but now she spoke up. Maybe we should wait for the fog to clear. It's dangerous to navigate when you can't see where you're going. The fog might not clear for hours, Maya replied. We can use the compass and follow the terrain features marked on the map. My father taught me land navigation techniques that work regardless of visibility. Of course your father taught you, Madison said sarcastically. Too bad he's not here to hold your hand through the actual challenge. Ashley intervened before Maya could respond. Let's focus on the task at hand. Madison, do you have a better suggestion for navigating in low visibility? Madison shrugged. I think we should be more cautious. Rushing into dangerous situations isn't good leadership. Maya recognized the tactic. Madison was trying to position her as reckless while presenting herself as the voice of reason. But they were burning daylight, and the fog showed no signs of lifting. We'll move carefully, Maya said, shouldering her pack. Ashley, you take point with the compass. Stephen, watch for terrain features that match our map. Madison, monitor our back trail so we can retrace our steps if necessary. I'll coordinate and make sure we stay on course. The team moved slowly through the fog-shrouded forest, with Maya calling out compass bearings and Ashley leading the way. The technique worked well. Within 2 hours, they had covered nearly 3 miles, and the fog was beginning to thin. As they stopped for a water break, Maya noticed that Madison had been lagging behind, sometimes falling so far back that she was barely visible. When questioned, Madison claimed she was being careful not to lose the trail, but Maya suspected she was deliberately slowing their progress. "How much water does everyone have left?" Ashley asked, checking her own supply. Maya and Stephen each had about 3/4 of their water remaining, but Madison claimed she was already running low. "I guess I didn't realize how much I was drinking," she said. Maya offered to share her water, but she made a mental note to monitor Madison's consumption more carefully. Running out of water in a survival situation was extremely dangerous, but deliberately creating a resource shortage could sabotage the entire team. By midday, they reached the river valley and found the first checkpoint, a wooden platform built around a large oak tree, about 20 feet off the ground. A sign explained the challenge. Teams had to construct a rope bridge across a 15-foot gap to reach the platform, where they would find their next set of instructions. "This is a teamwork and engineering challenge," Ashley observed, studying the setup. "We need to get the rope across the gap and secure it safely." Stephen examined the anchor points on both sides of the gap. "The trees look solid enough to support our weight, but we need to be careful about the rope angles and tension." Maya had learned rope work and not techniques from her father's training routines. "I can throw a line across and secure the primary support rope. Then, we'll need to create handholds and safety lines." "Are you sure you can do it safely?" Madison asked. "If you fall, you could get seriously hurt." Maya almost smiled at Madison's concern. "I'll be fine. This is basic rope work." Working together, the team successfully constructed a rope bridge across the gap. Maya crossed first to test its stability, then helped the others across to the platform. The checkpoint contained their next map coordinates and an additional challenge. They had to solve a puzzle using military time conversions and compass bearings to determine their next destination. "This is actually pretty clever," Stephen said as they worked through the problem. "They're testing both our outdoor skills and our ability to work with military protocols." Maya noticed that Madison seemed genuinely engaged with the puzzle solving, suggesting that her earlier obstructionism might have been motivated by nervousness rather than malice. Or perhaps she was simply changing tactics. The team made good progress for the rest of the day, reaching their planned campsite near a small stream just before sunset. As they set up the tent and prepared for the night, Maya felt cautiously optimistic about their chances of success. That optimism was shattered when she woke up at 3 in the morning to find their campfire completely extinguished and most of their remaining food missing from their packs. "Wake up, everyone," Maya said urgently, checking her equipment. "We have a problem." Ashley and Stephen immediately began checking their own supplies, while Madison seemed strangely slow to respond. When she finally examined her pack, she announced that her food was missing too. But Maya noticed that Madison's pack still looked suspiciously full. "This doesn't make sense," Stephen said. "How could animals get into all of our packs without waking anyone up?" Maya examined the area around their campsite and found something troubling: human footprints that didn't match any of their team members' boots. The prints were fresh, made during the night, and led away from their campsite toward the northeast. "Someone was here," Maya announced, pointing out the tracks. "Another team, or maybe saboteurs." Ashley knelt beside the footprints. "These look like standard academy boots. Could be another student team, but why would they steal our food?" Maya had a pretty good idea why, but she needed more evidence before making accusations. "Let's see if we can follow the tracks and maybe recover our supplies." The trail led them about half a mile through the forest before ending at a rocky area where tracks were impossible to follow. There was no sign of their missing food, but Maya did find something interesting: a small piece of blue fabric caught on a thorn bush. The fabric looked like it came from an academy uniform. "We should head back to camp and figure out how to manage with reduced supplies," Stephen suggested. "Actually," Madison said, "I might have some extra food. I packed more than I initially thought." She opened her pack and produced several energy bars and packets of trail mix, exactly the type of food that had been stolen from the others. When questioned, Madison claimed she had simply packed more carefully and hadn't noticed the extra supplies before. Maya was now certain that Madison was working with Brianna to sabotage their exercise, but proving it would be difficult. The missing food could be explained as animal theft or honest mistakes, and Madison's extra supplies provided plausible deniability. The second day brought new challenges. The team had to navigate through a section of forest marked as potentially dangerous due to unstable terrain and steep drop-offs. Maya took point, using her father's techniques for moving safely through hazardous areas. About midday, they reached a particularly challenging section where they had to traverse a narrow ledge above a 20-foot drop into a rocky streambed. The ledge was wide enough to walk across safely, but it required careful footing and steady nerves. Maya crossed first, testing each step and identifying the safest path. Ashley followed successfully. Then, Stephen made it across without incident. Madison was the last to cross, and she seemed unusually nervous. Halfway across the ledge, Madison suddenly slipped and fell, crying out in apparent pain. She caught herself on a small outcropping about 10 feet down, but claimed she couldn't climb back up due to an injured ankle. "I think it's sprained," Madison called up to them. "I can't put any weight on it." Maya immediately began rigging a rescue system using their rope and some techniques her father had taught her for extracting injured personnel from difficult positions. The rescue took nearly 2 hours and used up most of their rope, significantly slowing their progress. Once Madison was safely back on solid ground, Maya examined her ankle. There was no visible swelling or bruising, and Madison seemed to walk on it without difficulty when she thought no one was watching. "We should probably make camp here for the night," Madison suggested. "I need to rest this ankle, and we're already behind schedule." Ashley checked the map. "If we stop here, we'll miss the second checkpoint entirely. That means automatic point deductions." "I can't help having an injury," Madison said defensively. Maya made a decision. "Stephen, you stay here with Madison and make camp. Ashley and I will push ahead to the checkpoint, complete the challenge, and come back for you. We can all proceed together tomorrow." It was a risky strategy that divided their team, but Maya suspected that separating from Madison might prevent additional accidents or delays. Ashley agreed to the plan, and they set off toward the checkpoint at a rapid pace. The second checkpoint was located at an abandoned fire tower, where teams had to climb to the top and use semaphore flag signals to communicate a message to observers in the distance. Maya and Ashley completed the challenge quickly, but the round trip cost them several hours. When they returned to the campsite, they found Stephen looking troubled. "Madison's ankle seems fine now," he reported quietly. "She's been walking around normally for the past hour." That night, Maya stayed awake during her watch shift and observed Madison sneaking away from camp for about 30 minutes. When confronted the next morning, Madison claimed she had simply needed privacy for personal needs. The third day brought the most challenging test yet. Teams had to cross a fast-moving river using only the equipment they carried. The designated crossing point was marked by flags on both sides, but the water was deep and the current was strong. Maya assessed the situation carefully. The river was about 40 feet wide at the crossing point, with several large rocks providing potential anchor points for a rope system. However, someone would have to swim across with the rope to secure it on the far side. "I'll take the rope across," Maya announced. "I'm the strongest swimmer, and I've done water survival training." "That's incredibly dangerous," Madison protested. "If you get swept downstream, you could drown. We should find another crossing point." Ashley and Stephen supported Maya's plan after she explained her water survival experience. Maya secured one end of the rope to a sturdy tree, then entered the river with the other end tied around her waist. The current was stronger than expected, and Maya had to fight to maintain her course across the river. Halfway across, she felt the rope go slack. When she looked back, she saw that it had somehow come untied from the tree on the starting side. Without the safety line, Maya was now swimming alone in dangerous water, with no easy way back to her team. She focused on reaching the far shore, using techniques her father had taught her for swimming in challenging conditions. Maya reached the opposite bank exhausted but uninjured. As she caught her breath, she examined the end of the rope that should have remained tied to the tree. The knot had been deliberately loosened, someone had sabotaged her safety line while she was in the water. Looking across the river, Maya could see her team members appearing to search for another crossing point. But she noticed that Madison kept glancing in her direction with what looked like satisfaction rather than concern. Maya was now alone on the wrong side of the river, with most of the team's equipment and supplies on the other side. The obvious solution was to swim back, but she wasn't sure she had the strength for another crossing, especially if additional sabotage awaited her. Instead, Maya decided to continue toward the third checkpoint alone. If Madison was determined to eliminate her from the exercise, the best response was to prove that she could succeed without the team's help. The third checkpoint was located at an old ranger station about 2 miles downstream from the river crossing. Maya had to navigate using only her compass and basic survival skills, since the detailed map was with Ashley. She reached the checkpoint just before sunset and found another puzzle-based challenge. This one required teams to demonstrate their knowledge of emergency signaling techniques by constructing signal fires and sending coded messages using smoke patterns. Working alone, Maya completed the challenge successfully, then made camp near the ranger station. She was cold, hungry, and worried about her separated team members, but she also felt a growing sense of confidence. Despite Madison's sabotage attempts, she was proving that she could handle the survival exercise on her own. Maya woke before dawn on the 4th day of the survival exercise, her body stiff from sleeping on the hard ground near the ranger station. She had spent much of the night thinking about her situation and had reached some important decisions. It was time to stop simply reacting to Madison's sabotage attempts and start taking control of the situation. First, she needed to reunite with her team, not because she needed their help, but because completing the exercise as a team leader would send a stronger message than succeeding alone. Second, she needed to gather more evidence of the sabotage attempts. And third, she needed to ensure that Madison's dangerous escalation didn't put anyone else at risk. Maya studied her map and compass, plotting the most efficient route back to where she had left Ashley and Stephen. The river crossing would be challenging, but she had identified a narrower section about a mile upstream, where the water appeared shallower and the current less violent. As she prepared to leave the ranger station, Maya discovered something that changed everything. Fresh footprints around the building that definitely didn't belong to her. Someone else had been here during the night, watching her campsite. Following the tracks, Maya found a concealed observation post about 50 yards from the ranger station. The position provided a clear view of her campsite and contained evidence of extended surveillance: water bottles, food wrappers, and even a small notebook with times and observations written in handwriting she didn't recognize. The notebook entries were disturbing. Subject sleeping. Appears isolated from team. Fire dying down. No evidence of emergency beacon activation. The final entry, written just hours ago, read, Phase 3 ready to implement. Subject appears weakened and vulnerable. Maya photographed the notebook pages with her phone, though she doubted she would have cell service to transmit them until they reached the extraction point. More importantly, she now knew that the sabotage efforts were part of a coordinated plan with multiple participants. The realization that she was being stalked by multiple people changed her tactical approach. Maya began using techniques her father had taught her for moving through hostile territory, varying her route, checking for followers, and setting up position to observe anyone tracking her. Sure enough, about an hour after leaving the ranger station, Maya spotted her surveillance team. 2 figures moving parallel to her route, staying far enough back to avoid casual detection. Through her small binoculars, she could make out academy uniforms, but couldn't identify the specific individuals. Instead of confronting them directly, Maya decided to use their surveillance against them. She began moving toward the river crossing as if she planned to swim back across at the same dangerous location where she had nearly drowned the day before. If her stalkers were planning to interfere with her crossing, she wanted to know about it in advance. The plan worked. As Maya approached the river, she observed her followers moving to positions that would allow them to either help or hinder her crossing, depending on their intentions. She also noticed that they had equipment she hadn't seen before: additional rope, what appeared to be a small boat or raft, and other gear that hadn't been part of the standard survival exercise supplies. Maya circled back through the forest and approached the surveillance team from an unexpected direction. Hidden behind a large fallen tree, she was close enough to hear their conversation. "She's going to try the same crossing," said a voice Maya didn't recognize. Madison said to make sure she doesn't make it back to the other side. "This is getting out of hand," replied the second voice. A male student Maya thought might be from one of the other teams. "We agreed to slow her down and make her look incompetent, not actually hurt her." "Orders from the top," the first voice insisted. "Brianna wants this finished today. If Rodriguez doesn't make it to extraction, she automatically fails the exercise and probably gets kicked out of the academy." Maya had heard enough. She now had confirmation that Brianna was orchestrating a coordinated effort to eliminate her from the academy, using dangerous tactics that put her life at risk. It was time to change the game. Moving carefully to avoid detection, Maya worked her way to the river crossing point where Ashley and Stephen were waiting for her. When she emerged from the forest, both of her teammates expressed relief and concern about her overnight absence. "We were starting to think about using the emergency beacon," Ashley said. "Madison kept insisting that you had probably drowned or gotten lost." "Where is Madison now?" Maya asked. Stephen pointed downstream. "She went to look for a better crossing point about an hour ago. Said she'd be back by noon." Maya quickly explained what she had discovered: the surveillance team, the evidence of coordinated sabotage, and the conversation she had overheard. Ashley and Stephen listened with growing alarm. "This isn't just academy politics," Ashley said. "This is actually dangerous. We should probably activate the emergency beacon and report what's happening." "Not yet," Maya replied. "I want to finish this exercise and prove that their sabotage failed. But I need your help to do it safely." Maya outlined her plan. Instead of trying to cross the river themselves, they would continue downstream to the fourth and final checkpoint, completing the exercise requirements while documenting any additional sabotage attempts. The evidence she was gathering would be crucial for reporting the incident to academy authorities. Stephen was hesitant. "What if Madison tries something else dangerous?" "That's why we stick together and stay alert," Maya said. "And if she escalates to direct physical threats, we use the beacon immediately." The team moved out, following the river downstream toward the final checkpoint. Maya noticed that their surveillance team was paralleling their movement, staying just out of sight, but close enough to monitor their progress. About 2 miles downstream, they encountered Madison returning from her supposed search for an alternative crossing point. She seemed surprised to see Maya back with the team. "I thought you were going to try swimming back across," Madison said. "I was coming to help with the rescue if you got into trouble." "That's very thoughtful," Maya replied neutrally. "Did you find a better crossing point?" Madison's story about searching for alternatives was detailed but inconsistent. She described terrain features that didn't match the actual geography and claimed to have covered more ground than would have been possible in the time she was away. The fourth checkpoint was located at an abandoned fire tower surrounded by challenging terrain. The final exercise required teams to demonstrate advanced problem-solving skills by using their survival equipment to construct a functional pulley system that could lift a 50-pound weight to the top of the tower. Maya took charge of the engineering challenge, drawing on physics principles she had learned in school and practical knowledge from her father's training. Ashley and Stephen worked enthusiastically to implement her design, but Madison seemed more interested in creating problems than solutions. "I don't think this will work," Madison said as Maya calculated rope lengths and anchor points. "Maybe we should try a different approach." "What do you suggest?" Maya asked. Madison's alternative suggestion was unnecessarily complicated and would have required equipment they didn't possess. When Maya pointed out the flaws in the plan, Madison became increasingly argumentative. "You always think you know better than everyone else," Madison said. "Just because your father taught you some basic knots doesn't make you an expert engineer." Ashley intervened before the argument could escalate. "Let's try Maya's design first. If it doesn't work, we can modify it." Maya's pulley system worked perfectly, lifting the test weight to the top of the tower in less than 10 minutes. The checkpoint challenge was complete, and they were now just 3 miles from the extraction point where the exercise would officially end. As they prepared to leave the checkpoint, Maya noticed that Madison was lagging behind again, apparently having difficulty with her pack. When Maya offered to help, Madison claimed the pack was fine but continued to struggle with it. Maya's suspicions were confirmed when she spotted Madison quickly hiding something in her jacket, something small and electronic that definitely wasn't part of their standard equipment. When questioned, Madison claimed she was just adjusting her compass. The final 3 miles to the extraction point took them through dense forest with limited visibility. Maya maintained a careful watch for both natural hazards and signs of continued surveillance. Sure enough, she periodically spotted their stalkers moving parallel to their route. About a mile from the extraction point, Madison suddenly announced that she needed to stop for a bathroom break. She disappeared into the forest for several minutes, and when she returned, she seemed more confident and relaxed than she had been all day. Maya suspected that Madison had just received new instructions from her co-conspirators, probably through the hidden communication device she had concealed earlier. The final phase of whatever they were planning was apparently about to begin. The extraction point was located in a large clearing where helicopters would pick up the teams the following morning. Several other teams had already arrived and established campsites around the perimeter of the clearing. Maya was surprised to see Brianna Caldwell among the students already at the extraction point. Brianna was supposed to be with a different team completing a different route through the exercise area. "Maya," Brianna called out with false friendliness. "I'm so glad to see you made it safely. We heard there was some trouble with your team's river crossing." "Nothing we couldn't handle," Maya replied carefully. "Of course," Brianna smiled. "Though I understand Madison had to show considerable leadership when you got separated from the team yesterday." Maya glanced at Madison, who was looking increasingly uncomfortable. The conversation felt like a performance for the benefit of other students and instructors who might overhear it. That evening, as the team settled in for their final night in the forest, Maya noticed unusual activity around the clearing. Students were moving between campsites more than normal, and there seemed to be a lot of whispered conversations happening after dark. During her watch shift, Maya observed Brianna and Madison having an intense discussion near the tree line. Though she couldn't hear the words, their body language suggested disagreement or concern about something. Around midnight, Maya spotted movement in the forest surrounding the clearing, multiple figures positioning themselves in concealment around the extraction point. Whatever was planned for the final phase was apparently happening tonight. Maya quietly woke Ashley and Stephen. "We have a problem," she whispered, explaining what she had observed. "Should we wake the instructors?" Stephen asked. Maya considered the option. There were 2 academy instructors camping at the extraction point to supervise the final phase of the exercise, but Brianna's father was the commandant, and Maya wasn't sure how objective any investigation would be. "Not yet," Maya decided. "But let's be ready to call for help if necessary. And stick close together. I don't think we should separate again." As the night progressed, Maya documented everything she observed: the positions of the concealed figures, the unusual student interactions, and the growing sense that something significant was about to happen. At 3 a.m, Maya's fears were realized when someone cut the guy lines on their tent while they were sleeping inside. As the tent collapsed around them, Maya heard the sound of running footsteps in multiple directions. "Everyone okay?" Maya called out as they fought their way out of the collapsed fabric. Ashley and Stephen were shaken but uninjured. Madison claimed Tahadu extraction helicopters landed in the clearing at precisely 0800 hours, kicking up clouds of dust and fallen leaves as the weekend survival exercise officially concluded. Maya stood with her gear bag, watching as instructors checked off team members and began loading students for the return flight to Riverside Military Academy. She had made it through 5 days in the wilderness despite coordinated sabotage attempts, dangerous harassment, and what could only be described as systematic efforts to force her out of the academy. Now came the harder part, proving what had happened and ensuring it never happened to another student. Coach Reynolds approached Maya's team for their final debrief. "How did the exercise go for you folks?" he asked, making notes on his clipboard. Ashley spoke first. "Very challenging, sir. We learned a lot about teamwork and resource management." Stephen nodded in agreement. "The navigation and problem-solving elements really tested our abilities." Madison remained oddly quiet, avoiding eye contact with both Maya and the instructor. When Coach Reynolds looked at Maya expectantly, she chose her words carefully. "It was definitely educational, sir. I learned things about survival that I hadn't expected to encounter. Any significant incidents or safety concerns I should know about? Coach Reynolds asked. Maya glanced at her teammates. This was her opportunity to make an initial report, but she wanted to be strategic about timing and audience. I'd like to discuss some observations with the appropriate personnel once we return to campus, sir. Coach Reynolds nodded. My office is always open if you need to discuss anything related to the exercise. During the helicopter flight back to campus, Maya sat next to Jennifer Wu, whose team had been extracted from a different location. Jennifer immediately noticed Maya's serious expression. How did it go? Jennifer asked quietly over the helicopter noise. Complicated, Maya replied. I'll fill you in later when we have more privacy. Jennifer studied her friend's face. Are you okay? You look like you've been through more than just a camping trip. Maya appreciated Jennifer's concern, but the helicopter wasn't the place for detailed conversations. I'm fine, just tired and ready for a real shower. Back at the academy, students dispersed to their dormitories to clean up and rest before the regular Monday class schedule resumed. Maya used the time to organize her documentation, photographs, notes, and the evidence she had gathered during the exercise. Her first priority was transcribing everything while the details were still fresh in her memory. Maya had learned from her father that accurate record-keeping was crucial for any serious investigation, and she wanted to ensure that her account was both comprehensive and precise. The journal entries, photographs of the surveillance notebook, documentation of the sabotaged equipment, and detailed timeline of events painted a clear picture of coordinated harassment that had escalated to genuinely dangerous levels. Maya's second priority was determining the best way to report what had happened. Dr. Mitchell, the student affairs coordinator, seemed genuinely committed to helping students. But Colonel Caldwell was Brianna's father and the academy's commandant. Any investigation would ultimately require his involvement, creating an obvious conflict of interest. That afternoon, Maya received an unexpected visitor in her dormitory room. Major Williams, the leadership studies instructor, knocked on her door and asked if they could speak privately. I wanted to follow up on some observations from the past week, Major Williams said, closing the door behind him. Several instructors have noticed unusual tensions among certain student groups, and your name has come up in some concerning contexts. Maya felt a mix of relief and apprehension. What kind of contexts, sir? The type that suggests someone is facing challenges beyond normal academy social dynamics, Major Williams replied carefully. Leadership studies includes identifying and addressing toxic behaviors that undermine unit cohesion. I'm wondering if you've experienced anything that falls into that category. Maya realized that Major Williams was offering her an opening to discuss the harassment she had experienced. As a decorated Army officer with no family connections to academy politics, he might be the ideal person to receive her initial report. Sir, I believe I've been the target of coordinated harassment designed to force me to leave the academy, Maya said. During the survival exercise, these efforts escalated to actions that put my safety at risk. Major Williams leaned forward. That's a serious allegation. Can you provide specifics? Maya retrieved her documentation and spent the next hour walking Major Williams through the evidence she had compiled. He listened carefully, asking clarifying questions and taking detailed notes. This is extremely concerning, Major Williams said after reviewing everything. If your allegations are accurate, we're looking at violations of the Academy's honor code, safety regulations, and possibly criminal law. What happens next, sir? Maya asked. I need to brief Colonel Caldwell immediately, Major Williams replied. However, given the family relationship involved, I'm also going to recommend that the Academy request an external investigation from higher command. Maya felt both vindicated and nervous. Will my safety be protected during the investigation? Absolutely, Major Williams assured her. And Miss Rodriguez? You did exactly the right thing by documenting everything and reporting it through proper channels. That shows the kind of integrity and leadership the Academy is supposed to develop. Within hours, Maya found herself in Colonel Caldwell's office, accompanied by Major Williams and Dr. Mitchell. The colonel's expression was stern as he reviewed Maya's evidence file. These are serious accusations, Miss Rodriguez, Colonel Caldwell said finally. You're alleging that my daughter orchestrated a campaign of harassment and sabotage against you. Sir, I'm reporting what I observed and experienced, Maya replied carefully. The evidence speaks for itself. Colonel Caldwell studied the photographs of the surveillance notebook and documentation of sabotaged equipment. This surveillance post, you're claiming it was set up specifically to monitor your movements? Yes, sir. The notebook contains times and observations that correspond directly to my activities during the exercise. The colonel turned to Major Williams. What's your assessment of this situation? Sir, the evidence is substantial and the allegations are serious enough to warrant immediate investigation, Major Williams replied. Given the family relationship involved, I recommend requesting an external review team from district headquarters. Colonel Caldwell was quiet for several minutes, clearly weighing his options. Finally, he spoke. Miss Rodriguez, I want you to understand that false accusations against fellow students are themselves serious violations of academy policy. I understand, sir. I'm confident in the accuracy of my report. Very well. I'm placing you under protective observation until we can sort this out. You'll be moved to a private room in the guest quarters, and your movements will be monitored for your own safety. Maya realized she was essentially being placed in protective custody, which validated the seriousness of her allegations, but also isolated her from her support network among the other students. That evening, as Maya settled into her temporary quarters, she received a phone call from her father. Senior Chief Rodriguez was calling from his deployment location, having been notified by the academy administration about the situation. Mija, her father's voice was both concerned and proud. I heard you've been dealing with some serious problems at school. Papa, Maya said, feeling emotional for the first time since the crisis began. I'm okay, but it's been really hard. Tell me what happened, Carlos Rodriguez said. And Maya spent the next 30 minutes recounting the entire ordeal. You did everything right, her father said when she finished. You documented the harassment, you avoided escalating to physical confrontation, and you reported it through proper channels. That's exactly what I would have done in your situation. I was scared sometimes, Maya admitted, especially during the river crossing when they sabotaged my safety line. Fear is normal, her father replied. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what's right even when you are afraid. And you showed real courage, Maya. I'm proud of you. What happens now? Maya asked. The investigation will determine the facts and assign appropriate consequences, her father said. But, regardless of the outcome, you've proven that you belong at that academy. You've shown the kind of character and leadership that makes a good officer. The external investigation team arrived 2 days later, consisting of a colonel from district headquarters, a military police investigator, and a legal affairs officer. They spent 3 days interviewing students, examining evidence, and reconstructing the events of the survival exercise. Maya was interviewed multiple times, walking through her documentation and answering detailed questions about the harassment campaign. She also learned that several other students had come forward with their own observations of Brianna's behavior. Jennifer Wu testified about witnessing Brianna plant the pills in Maya's room. She had seen it happen but hadn't realized the significance at the time. Marcus Thompson reported overhearing conversations where Brianna had discussed dealing with the problem of Maya's presence at the academy. Most significantly, the 2 students who had been conducting surveillance during the survival exercise were identified and interviewed. Under pressure, they admitted to following Maya on Brianna's instructions, though they denied participating in any attempts to physically harm her. Madison Pierce, faced with evidence of her sabotage activities, eventually confessed to tampering with Maya's equipment and deliberately creating obstacles during the survival exercise. She claimed she had been coerced by Brianna into participating, though she accepted responsibility for her own actions. The investigation concluded that Maya had been the victim of systematic harassment that violated academy policies and potentially criminal statutes. Brianna Caldwell was expelled from Riverside Military Academy and faced possible criminal charges for endangering another student's safety. Madison Pierce and the 2 surveillance students were suspended for the remainder of the semester and required to repeat their senior year. Several other students received lesser punishments for failing to report harassment they had witnessed. Colonel Caldwell was reassigned to a different command, though officials emphasized that this was due to the appearance of impropriety rather than any finding of wrongdoing on his part. 3 weeks after the survival exercise, Maya found herself back in her regular dormitory room, surrounded by friends who had supported her throughout the investigation. The academy had returned to normal operations, but the atmosphere had changed in important ways. "You know what I think is funny?" Jennifer said as they studied together in the library. "Brianna thought your father's rank meant you didn't belong here. But it turned out that his training in how to handle dangerous situations was exactly what you needed." Maya smiled. "Papa always said that military skills weren't just about combat. They were about dealing with any threat professionally and effectively." Dr. Mitchell stopped by their study table. "Maya, I wanted you to know that the Academy has implemented new policies based on your experience. We now have clearer procedures for reporting harassment and better oversight of student leadership positions." "I'm glad something positive came out of it," Maya replied. "More than just policy changes," Dr. Mitchell continued. "Your handling of this situation has become a case study in our leadership studies curriculum. Future students will learn about integrity, documentation, and proper reporting procedures using your experience as an example." As her senior year continued, Maya found herself in an unexpected position of respect and influence among her fellow students. Her willingness to stand up to harassment and her professional handling of a dangerous situation had demonstrated the kind of leadership the Academy claimed to develop. Maya was elected to the Student Council, earned academic honors, and received a letter of commendation from the district commander for her courage in reporting serious misconduct. Most importantly, she had proven to herself that she belonged at Riverside Military Academy not because of her father's rank or her family's military heritage, but because of her own character and capabilities. On graduation day, Senior Chief Carlos Rodriguez sat in the front row as his daughter received her diploma and commission as a second lieutenant in the Army Reserve. As Maya crossed the stage, she caught sight of her father's proud smile and realized that the girl who had walked through Riverside's gates 9 months earlier was gone. In her place stood a young woman who had faced serious challenges, overcome coordinated opposition, and emerged stronger than before. She was ready for whatever came next, because she had learned the most important lesson of all, that true strength comes not from avoiding fights, but from choosing the right battles and fighting them with honor. Maya Rodriguez, daughter of Senior Chief Carlos Rodriguez, had found her place in the world. VE slept through the incident and seemed surprised by the tense condition. Maya examined the cut guidelines with her flashlight. The cuts were clean and deliberate, made with a sharp knife rather than damaged by accident or weather. Someone had definitely sabotaged their shelter. Looking around the clearing, Maya noticed that theirs was the only tent that had been damaged. The message was clear: this was a targeted attack, not random vandalism. As dawn approached and extraction helicopters appeared on the horizon, Maya realized that she had successfully completed the survival exercise despite coordinated efforts to make her fail. But, more importantly, she had gathered evidence of serious misconduct that went far beyond typical academy politics. The survival exercise was ending, but Maya's real battle was just beginning. That night, Maya wrote in her journal by flashlight. Day 3 of the exercise. Madison tried to kill me today by sabotaging my safety rope during the river crossing. I'm now separated from the team, but still on track to complete the exercise. I think it's time to stop playing defense and start fighting back. Papa always said that sometimes the best defense is a good offense. As she settled in for the night, Maya began planning her next moves. She had evidence of sabotage, proof of Madison's deceptions, and a growing understanding of how far Brianna's followers were willing to go to eliminate her from the academy. The exercise wasn't just about surviving in the wilderness anymore. It had become a test of whether she would allow herself to be driven out by people who had no respect for fair competition or honest achievement. Maya Rodriguez, daughter of Senior Chief Carlos Rodriguez, wasn't going anywhere. She wrote in her journal that night, "The survival exercise starts tomorrow. I'm prepared for the outdoor challenges, but I'm more worried about the human ones. Brianna and her friends are planning something. I can feel it. But I won't let them intimidate me into quitting or backing down." Papa didn't raise me to run from fights, especially when I'm fighting for the right to belong somewhere. As she prepared for what might be the most challenging week of her life, Maya thought about her father, somewhere in a dangerous part of the world, facing real enemies with real weapons. Her problems at Riverside were serious, but manageable compared to what he dealt with every day. She also thought about her mother, who had faced her own battles with grace and determination until cancer finally defeated her. Her mother had taught her that strength wasn't about never being afraid. It was about doing what was right even when you were terrified. Tomorrow, Maya would enter the woods with a team that included someone actively working against her, facing challenges that could be dangerous under the best circumstances. But she was ready for whatever came next, because she was the daughter of warriors, and warriors didn't surrender without a fight. As she prepared for bed, Maya could hear other students in the dormitory settling in for the night. Laughter echoed from some rooms, while others were quiet with the intensity of students focused on homework or preparation for the next day. She wondered which category she would eventually fit into: the carefree students who felt secure in their place, or the serious ones who knew they had to work harder to prove themselves. Through her window, she could see the lights of the academic buildings across campus, where janitors were cleaning classrooms and security guards were making their rounds. The academy never really slept. There was always someone working, always someone maintaining the standards that made this place special. Maya thought about her father, probably halfway around the world, possibly in danger, definitely missing his daughter, but doing his duty anyway. She thought about her mother, who had died too young but had lived long enough to teach Maya about courage and integrity. She thought about her grandmother, holding their family together through decades of military deployments and separations. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to prove herself, and probably new conflicts with Brianna and her followers. But tonight, Maya Rodriguez felt ready for whatever came next. She was the daughter of a Navy SEAL, raised to be strong, trained to persevere, and prepared to stand up for what was right. The academy had no idea what they were dealing with.